We were dying at twice the rate of others.
Get a boy, and they were beating him up.
They made sure that we're the ones that went out first,
And get us somebody else. And some of them, they would take them away, but that lady, they just left her there.
They wanted to squash the growing anti-war movement in the Chicano community.
It's the beginning of the gruesome Vietnam War, and Americans are being drafted. It's the beginning of many protests and civil rights movements. But one group of people stand out from the rest, both in protests and in war: the Chicanos. When Chicanos found out that they were being drafted unfairly and being sent to the front lines in Vietnam, they were furious and felt that their fight was not in Vietnam, but for social justice in America. Thus, the Chicano Moratorium protests occurred in 1970, which led to police brutality and chaos, fueling the Chicanos even more and leaving a disastrous, unknown, and powerful mark on history. 1940. Vietnam, a colony of France until Japan gained control during World War II. After a brutal World War II, the Allies agreed that Vietnam would return to France. However, some saw this as an opportunity, including a man named Ho Chi Minh. After the French had taken Vietnam back, Minh organized the Viet Minh in 1941 to get Vietnam's independence, and soon, Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Minh began attacking the French. In February of 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th president, did not want America to be involved in Vietnam. Yet, in April, his administration needed to rethink this. Eisenhower then sent troops into southern Vietnam to provide aid. But in order to get enough soldiers in the first place, America needed draftees. However, not everyone had equal chances when it came to drafts, and not everyone was treated equally. Chicanos were targets for war drafts.
We didn't have the opportunity to get a student deferment or deferment.
Many others volunteered into Vietnam.
We were expected to do the hard work for the least pay all throughout the society.
But not only were the Chicanos unfairly drafted, they were being discriminated in the war. They were being sent to the front lines as cannon fodder.
we were the first ones that were always getting pushed in, always getting pushed ahead. You guys go out first, you guys go out first. And we did that, like I said, for a whole year.
And conditions were harsh in the front lines.
It was very, very hot over there, very hot and very humid. And then when it rained, I think it rained at one time for about 2-3 months straight, every day, every night. For us, it had to go out, and the rest was, you get out there, you're in the jungle, nothing but mosquitoes and snakes and all that kind of stuff. It's bad enough you're looking for the Viet Cong, and then you have to worry about that as well.
Chicanos had only made up approximately 4.5% of the population of the United States. However, they made up about 20% of the casualties in Vietnam.
So it was really much more noticeable in our community. So like almost every family had somebody that was injured, that had fought, or a cousin or a neighbor had died or had been seriously injured in that war. So it had affected us not only as individuals, not only as families, but as whole communities.
This data encouraged the formation of the Chicano Moratorium Committee. However, there were other ambitions for the committee's creation. For example, one of the main groups who founded the committee, the Brown Berets, were a Chicano organization that formed during the Vietnam War. They started with school walkouts, and eventually they were known for their activism in farm workers' struggles, educational reform, anti-war, and police brutality.
What we did is we fought to have more Chicanos admitted into college. We fought for Chicano studies. We fought for Chicano instructors, and also for a newspaper for Chicanos on campus. And we supported, the struggles in the community against police brutality, the walkouts in the high schools.
The first Chicano moratorium was on December 20th, 1969. it was a peaceful and successful march. The second took place on February 28, 1970. This moratorium was special in a way, as it was a protest in heavy rain. Both of these events had a few thousand attendees. However, the biggest protest had 20 to 30,000 attendees. This protest was on August 29, 1970 in East Los Angeles. This protest was the most iconic of the moratoriums and the most shocking. People from all around the country came to participate in this event. There were speeches, walks, and chants. It was the perfect protest. However, this event did not go as it planned.
President Nixon and then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, they were very concerned about the rise of the Black and the Chicano movements, and they were even more concerned that we were challenging the war in Vietnam. They planned, they wanted to squash the growing anti-war movement in the Chicano community. They had a plan to disrupt the moratorium. You know, they had the combined forces of the LAPD and the sheriffs. They were already ready, and in collaboration with the FBI. So what happened that day, they provoked an attack.
And these are the sheriffs arriving in big numbers. You can see buses up here, and they start pushing people this way. They push them into here, and nobody's fighting the sheriffs here. They push a few things in, and there were some things that were thrown, and then we stopped them. Here they're another 50, 100 yards closer in. They are pushing us up against the wall. So eventually, for the safety of the people pouring out on the sides, they were pushed back. Still wasn't any violence, and then they came with the tear gas and then began attacking. And more came into the community like that.
A police officer came and beat her up with a baton on the head, and that lady just went out like a red. So then I started yelling, so they wouldn't do any no more, because 2 or 3 officers.
One of the few killed by the police department was a Los Angeles Times reporter named Ruben Salazar.
For some reason, they said, oh, somebody ran in there with a rifle. They never found any rifle, and they shoot in, and they just happened to kill the biggest news media man that we had in the whole Mexican-American community nationwide.
He was, according to the sheriff's department, accidentally killed by a tear gas canister. Actually, the police had multiple stories.
The first day in the newspaper, it said a bullet killed Ruben Salazar. And then they had, after that, they had what they called an inquest, a coroner's inquest. And it was supposed to be about what Ruben Salazar, how he died. But all of a sudden they began saying, oh, asking people, did you see somebody throw a rock at a sheriff? You know, did you? And they started talking about everything else, trying to make it look like we did it.
Lies were being told in the media, false stories, which put a bad reputation on Chicanos. The media and TV would state that the Chicanos were the ones rioting, which was not true. This convinced the community to branch off into even more protests, informing people on their movements and demonstrations more and more.
We had a big demonstration actually afterwards, September 16th. We started out with about, our committee was going to march. At first the sheriff said there shouldn't be a September 16th. And so they convinced the committee that held it to call it off. But we said no. The anger of the community was evident at that demonstration. But it was a lot of work to try to get things back, and still, it's been decades now that we've had to tell the story over and over and over again, and we do.
The National Chicano Moratorium Anti-War March on August 29th left a catastrophic, yet also a life-changing legacy. The committee led Chicanos forward as a race and as a community in America. This topic has faded away from most, and those who know of it may only know of the lies that the government put out to cover the truth.